Samsaradava nalalidaloka Tranaya karuna guna gunatvam
Samsaradava nalalidaloka Tranaya karuna gunatvam
Praptasya kalyuna Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Praptasakadana Gunanavasam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Varitramadhyan Manasurasena
Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Varitramadhyan Manasurasena
Romancha Kampa Shutaranga Vajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Romancha Kampa Sutaranga Vajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shingarathan Mandiramarjanado
Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shingaratanama Diramajanado
Yuktasya Bhaktam Sanyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Yuktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadana Triptan Harivaksha Sandra
Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavad Prasada Satana Triptan Haribhakta Sangha
Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vidvaiva Truptim Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Shri Radhika Madhava Yurapara Madhurya Leela Ganarupa Namna
Shri Radhika Madhavaya Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupanana
Pratikshanasvadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Pratikjanasa Dhanalalopasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Nikunjayo no Rati Keli Siddhai Yayali Viryuktir Apekshaniya
Nikunjayono Ratikali Sijai Dayali Vijo Tirapekshaniya
Tatrati Dakshan Ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Tatra Tidakya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Sakshadaritvina samasta shastre uktastatha bhayate vasadi
Satchataritena samasta shashe Ruktastatava yataiva sarve
Kinto praborya priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Kintu prabhurja priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada Yasya prasada nagati kutopi
Yasya prasada Bhagavat prasada Yasya prasada Nagati kutapi
Jayam tu vamstasya yasatri sadyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Dayam tuvam tasya Yasati sandham Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastata Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatta Disatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Aura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe.
Jaya Radhe,
Jaya Radhe,
Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe.
Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra.
Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra.
Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman.
Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman.
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha.
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha.
Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nittai Gaura Haribo,
Hari
Haribo,
Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Vishnu Par Paramahansa Prabha Jagacharya Stotara Sarashima Iskon Pratishta Viviti Samstav Kacharya Vaishnav Siramani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhakti Data Patita Pavana His Divine Grace Abhacharvina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patitu Dhari Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatra Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Se Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Prema Nama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Sachinanda Nishman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mavarana Avatar Ki Jai Golokira Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai Jugadharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihad Nidanga Trends and Dental Book Distribution Seva की जय शिशु राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंड श्यामकुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय तेलोशिव शिशु राधा नील माधव की जय श्री श्रीमय पूर्णद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय परम करुणा शिष्य गौर निताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम कित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी प्रदे प्रभु स्मस्पद्रारी विष्णु दर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना करुण सिंगरे भगवान की जय जगंगा माई जमुना माई की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे हरि all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories to the assembly bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Bol.
Narasimhaya
Namaste Narasimhaya
Prahlada-hlaada-dayine
Prahlada-hlaada-dayine
Hiranyakashi-purvakshaha
Hiranyakashipu
Shilatanka-nakalaye
Jaya Silatanka Nakalaye
Itom Narsimha Paratom Narsimha
Ito Nisingha Parato Nisingha
Yeto Yeto Yamitatom Narsimha
Jaya Jato Jato Jamitato Nisingha
Bahi Narsimha Hrudaye Narsimho
Vair Nisingha Hrudaye Nisingha
Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapaje
Narasingha Madim Sharanam Prapade
Tavakara Kamalabare Nakam Adbhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adabhuta Sringa Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanavinga Kesavadrita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re
Keshavadrita Narahari
जय केशवधृत नरहरि रूप जय जगदीश रे जय जगदीश रे जय जगदीश रे
जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव
जय निसिंहरे 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 जय निसिंहरे
जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल जय जय श्री वृंदाई तुलसी पाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसी पाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः वृंदायै तुलसी देवाय प्रियायै केशव सत्य कृष्ण भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो
Radha Krishna seva pavo Eya Vilasi
Radha Krishna seva pavo abhilashi
Radha Krishna seva pavo Eya Vilasi
Je tomara sharana lo tara vancha purana ho
Tamara Sharanala Tahara Vancha Purna
kripa kori koro tare vrindavan vasi
Tumi Kripa Kori Karatare Vrindavana Vasi
Murae abhilash vilas kunje diyo vas
Morae Avira Viras Kunje Diyava
nayane haribo sada jugal ruparasi
Aminayane Diva Sada Jugalarupparasi
ei nivedana dharo sakhiranugatha koro
Nivedana Sakirano Gatakara
सेवाधिकारा दिए करो निज दासी
Sevayari Kara Diye Koroni Jadasi
बिना कृष्ण दासे कोए ना मोरा होए
Vina Krishna Dasi Ko Eyana Mora
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Vasi
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Vasi
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Kani Kani Sapapani Brahmatari Kani Shan Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshina Pade Pade
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Kani Kani Sapapani Brahmatari Kani Shan Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshina Pade Pade
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Jani Kani Sapapani Brahmatari Kani Shan Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshina Pade Pade
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Nityai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nityai Gaura Hari Bol, Nityai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nityai Gaura Hari Bol. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai.
Jai. Shri Vrindayai Tulasi Debai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabhataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Debai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabhataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Debai Priyayai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabhataye Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make me resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavati, Mrs. of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always say, my love, Shri Radha Govind. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam ki jai. Chaito Darpanam Marjanam Avamahada Bhagni Nirvapanam Shriyakari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Ananda Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Sadhanam Sarvatmasnam Parampara Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vardhana Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamitta Shmarane Nakala Itadrishitava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam idrishamya janinanuraga Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi saishnuna Amanina manadena Kirtaniya sadahari Na dhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitam vaja garisha kamaye Mama janmani janmani shari Bhavatar bhakti raituki tvai Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam visame bhavam budho kripaya tapapara pankaja stita dhuli sadrisha vichintaya Nanam galorashrudharaya Vadanam Gadagadharudaya Gira Pulakarin Chitam Bapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavisati Juga Itam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravrusa Itam Shunya Itam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Asli Shava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshanar Marmahatam Karotuva Jatha Tathava Vidadhatulam Pato Mat Pranatatu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Astakam Ki Jai Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutani Smara Bhaktivanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devam Gaurvani Pracharani Vishesha Shunnavadi Vatsatari Satani Namo Mahavaranayo Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnayo Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gaurate Shri Maha. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditioned life or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names, O my Lord. Out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a lord on a stony street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause that is devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the eyes of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he sunders me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for his Lord is my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1, to blaspheme his devotees who dedicated life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2, to consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4, to blaspheme the scriptures or scriptures in pursuance of Vedic version. 5, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6, to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. 8, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which offer invaders as fruitive activities karma kanda. 9, to instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10, to not have complete faith in chanting with holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be interchangeable chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses
in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone. They are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha kripa Shri Guru Pranam prayers Jai. Om Aganya Timirasya Madanjana Prakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chitan Bistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachikamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Visakha Nabitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shivarsavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kipabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujjvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishwaraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhude Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Surator Pangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadambujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyadvindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bhi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswaner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadir Adi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakasad Masakalpa Vriksha Lakshavite Susurabhira Vipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevya Mahanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanam Adyavam Siratnam Gadam Pranai Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Chivanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritti Manti Bhavanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sudurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragam Yovayor Tapi Manasomuni Pungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadisimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagaranda Kotim Yas Chaktirasti Jagaranda Chayaya Danta Dantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyomina Jasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanharusa Suktarya Mevanigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmayara Satpati Bhavi Dabis Tabirya Evani Jarupa Tayakalabi Golok Evani Visata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Viluchanena Santak Sadeva Hridesu Vilokayanti Yam Shamasundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitista Nanavatana Makarobu Vanessa Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavatmanam Pumamyo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabhavato Jagaranda Koti Kotis Vasesa Vasudadi Viputi Benam Tad Brahman Niskalam Anantam Sesa Bhutam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagaranda Satani Sute Dragunya Tad Visayveda Vitayamanam Satva Volambi Parasatvam Visuddha Satvam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmayara Satmatayamanasu Yapraninam Pratifalam Smalatamu Petya Lila Yatenda Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijdamni Talecha Tasya Devi Maheswari Dama Sute Sutesu Tete Prabhavani Javi Tastayena Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shistista Tipralaya Sada Vasakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupma Pyasya Chitesta Sesa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjaya Tena Itata Pritakaste Etu Yasambhutam Apitata Samapaitikar Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Evi Santanam Abhupetya Dipayate Vivitahita Samanu Dharma Yastadrik Evihicha Vishnu Tayabhavati Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Balichis Yoga Nidrama Nanta Jagaranda Sarumakupa Adhara Shakti Mavalamya Paramsmamurtim Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamatavalamya Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagananda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalaviseso Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Tasma Sakalation and Jesu Teja Swiyam Kiyat Prakatiyat Apitat Pratatra Brahmaya Esa Jagananda Vidhanukarta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dwande Pranamasama Esa Ganadi Raja Vignam Vihantam Alamasi Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Marudisasya Kalasta Tatvam Anasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savita Sagalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Resesa Teja Yasyagaya Brahmati Sambrita Kalachakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichayastutayastapam Siddhamadi Kita Patakava Desta Jiva Yadata Matami Bhava Prakadarpa Bhava Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrinda Gopam Atavendam Hoswa Karma Bandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kama Sahaja Pranadi Biti Vatsalya Moha Gurugoro Vasavya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sarvisintana Mahapurete Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Sriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpatara Vajramabu Miss Chintamane Ganama Yito Yamamritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Stipriya Saki Chiranandam Joti Param Apitata Swatyab Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihisavadi Shirabi Vyasta Sumahani Mesa Ardakyo Vavajitina Hiatra Visamaya Pachesvita Dupam Tamaham Ihigolokam Itya Vedantaste Santakshiti Virachara Katipa Shri Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual masters receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. For my respectful base, not to lotus feet, as such spiritual master is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing, ecstasy, singing, and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion with his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. For my respectable base, not to lotus feet, as such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food and analyzes that which is liquid, drunk, and such. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes, Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Street as such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting gopis who at different times make different tastes for perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal affairs. And I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lotus Feet, such spiritual masters. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the Lotus Feet, such spiritual masters. Spiritual masters be honored as much as Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lotus Feet, such spiritual masters, a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lotus Feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraja Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text number 26. Uddhava Uvacha Nanute Tattva Samradya Rishiko Saravo Nitike Sakshad Bhagavata Disto Martyalokam Chihasata. Uddhava Uvacha. Uddhava said, Nanu, however, te, of yourself, tattva samradya, one who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. Rishi, learned scholar, Kosarava, unto the son of Kosaru, Maitreya. Antike, staying nearby. Shakshat, directly. Bhagavata, by the personality of Godhead. Adista, instructed. Martyalokam, mortal world. Chihasata, while quitting. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sri Uddhava said, you may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although one may be well versed in the transcendental science, one should be careful about the offense of Maryada Vyatikrama, or impertinently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of Maryada Vyatikrama, because by so doing, one loses his duration of life, his opulence, fame, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhava, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya Rishi to receive transcendental knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as a spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well-versed. So Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya. Another elderly person, but he was well-versed also because he was directly instructed by the Lord while the Lord was about to quit the mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else. But Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim to becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhava. One should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. The Lord never tolerates the impertinence of a Maryada Vyatikrama. One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interests of one's own personal gain and fame. Impertinence on the part of the pseudo-spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Uddhava said, "You may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world." Gaura Premanandi Haribol, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So yesterday, in the previous verse, in the last paragraph it says, real knowledge descends in the disciplic succession from the Lord to Uddhava, from Uddhava to Vidura, and so on. Such supreme transcendental knowledge is not possible to achieve by the process of imperfect speculation as performed by the so-called learned mundane wranglers. Vidura was anxious to know from Uddhava that confidential knowledge known as Paramam Stitim, in which the Lord is known by his transcendental pastimes. So I want to stop right there. The Lord is known by his transcendental pastimes. Very significant statement. The Lord is known by his transcendental pastimes. So in the Krishna book, in the chapter called The Deliverance of Lord Shiva, Prabhupada says, here another question may be raised. If the Supreme Lord is all-powerful, why should he try to reform his devotee by putting him in distress? The answer is that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead puts his devotee in distress, it is not without purpose. Sometimes the purpose is that in distress, a devotee's feelings of attachment to Krishna are magnified. For example, when Krishna, before leaving the capital of the Pandavas for his home, asked Kunti Devi for permission to leave, she said, "My dear Krishna, in our distress, you were always present with us. Now, because we have been elevated to a royal position, you are leaving us. I would therefore prefer to live in distress than to lose you." When a devotee is put into a situation of distress, his devotional activities are accelerated. Therefore, to show special favor to a devotee, the Lord sometimes puts him into distress. Besides that, it is stated that the sweetness of happiness is sweeter to those who have tasted bitterness. The Supreme Lord descends to this material world just to protect his devotees from distress. In other words, if devotees were not in distress condition, the Lord would not have come down. As for his killing the demons or the miscreants, this can be easily done by his various energies, just as many asuras are killed by his external energy, goddess Durga. Therefore, the Lord does not need to come down personally to kill such demons, but when his devotee is in distress, he must come. Lord Nrsingadeva appeared not in order to kill Hiranyakashipu, but to save Prahlada and to give him blessings. In other words, because Prahlada Maharaja was put into very great distress, the Lord appeared. When, after the dense, dark night, there is finally sunrise in the morning, it is very pleasant. When there is scorching heat, cold water, which is very pleasant. When there is scorching heat, cold water is very pleasant. And when there is freezing winter, hot water is very pleasant. Similarly, when a devotee, after experiencing the distress of the material world, relishes the spiritual happiness awarded by the Lord, his position is still more pleasant and enjoyable. The Lord continued, "When my devotee is bereft of all material riches and is deserted by his relatives, friends, family members, because he has no one to look after him, he completely takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung in this connection, "My dear Lord Krishna, O son of Nanda Maharaja, you are now standing before me with Srimati Radharani, the daughter of King Rishabhanu. I am now surrendering unto you. Please accept me. Please do not kick me away. I have no shelter other than you." When a devotee is thus put into so-called miserable conditions and bereft of riches and family, he tries to revive his original position of material opulence. But although he tries again and again, Krishna again and again takes away all his resources. Thus he finally becomes disappointed in material activities, and in that stage of frustration in all endeavors, he can fully surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such persons are advised by the Lord from within to associate with devotees. By associating with devotees, they naturally become inclined to render service to the Personality of Godhead, and they immediately get all facilities from the Lord to advance in Krishna consciousness. The non-devotees, however, are very careful about preserving their material condition of life. Gradually, therefore, such non-devotees do not come to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but worship Lord Shiva or other demigods for immediate material profit. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, therefore, Kankshanta karmanam siddhim yajanta ihadevata. The karmis, in order to achieve success within this material world, worship the various demigods. To achieve success within its material world, worship the various demigods. It is also stated by Lord Krishna that those who worship demigods are not mature in their intelligence. The devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore, because of their strong attachment for him, meaning Krishna, do not foolishly go to the demigods. Lord Krishna said to King Yudhisthira, "My devotee is not deterred by any adverse conditions of life. He always remains firm and steady. Therefore I give myself to him, and I favor him so that he can achieve the highest success of life." The mercy bestowed upon the tried devotee by the Supreme Personality of God is described as Brahma, which indicates that the greatness of that mercy can be compared only to the all-pervasive greatness of Brahman. Brahma means unlimitedly great and unlimitedly expanding. That mercy is also described as Paramam, for it has no comparison within this material world. It is also called Shukshmam, very fine. Not only is the Lord's mercy upon the tried devotee great and unlimitedly expansive, but it is of the finest quality of transcendental love between the devotee and the Lord. Such mercy is further described as Chinmatram, completely spiritual. The use of the word matram indicates absolute spirituality with no tinge of material qualities. That mercy is also called Sat, eternal, and Anantakam, unlimited. Since the devotee of the Lord is awarded such unlimited spiritual benefit, why should he worship the demigods? A devotee of Krishna does not worship Lord Shiva or Brahma or any other subordinate demigod. He completely devotes himself to the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Sukadeva Goswami continued, the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and including Lord Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and others, are apt to be very quickly satisfied or very quickly angered by the good or ill behavior of their devotees. But this is not so with the Supreme Personality Godhead Vishnu. This means that every living entity within this material world, including the demigods, is conducted by the three modes of material nature. And therefore the qualities of ignorance, passion, are very prominent within the material world. Those devotees who take blessings from the demigods are also infected with the material qualities especially passion and ignorance. Lord Sri Krishna has therefore stated in the Bhagavad Gita that to take blessings from the demigods is less intelligent, because when one takes benedictions from the demigods, the results of such benedictions are temporary. It is easy to get material opulence by worshipping the demigods, but the result is sometimes disastrous. As such, the benedictions derived from demigods are appreciated only by the less intelligent class of men. Persons who derive benedictions from the demigods gradually become puffed up with material opulence and neglectful of their benefactors. Sukadeva Goswami addressed King Parikshit thus: My dear king, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, the principal trio of the material creation, are able to bless or curse anyone. Of this trio, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are very easily satisfied, but also very easily angered. When satisfied, they give benedictions without consideration. And when angry, they curse the devotee without consideration. But Lord Vishnu is not like that. Lord Vishnu is very considerate. Whenever a devotee wants something from Lord Vishnu first considers whether such a benediction will ultimately be good for the devotee. Lord Vishnu never bestows any benediction which will ultimately prove disastrous to the devotee. By his transcendental nature, he is always merciful. Therefore, before giving any benediction, he considers whether it will prove beneficial for the devotee. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always merciful, even when it appears that he has killed a demon, or even when he apparently becomes angry toward the devotee, his actions are always auspicious. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore known as all good. Whatever he does is good. As for the benedictions given by the demigods, like Lord Shiva, there is the following historical incident cited by the great sages. Once Lord Shiva, after giving a benediction to a demon named Rikasura, the son of Sakuni, was himself entrapped in a very dangerous position. Rikasura was searching after a benediction and trying to decide which of the three presiding deities to worship in order to get it. In the meantime, he happened to meet the great sage Narada and consulted with him as to whom he should approach to achieve quick results from his austerity. He inquired of the three deities named Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, who is most quickly satisfied. Narada could understand the plan of the demon, and he advised him, You had better worship Lord Shiva. Then you will quickly get the desired result. Lord Shiva is very quickly satisfied and very quickly dissatisfied also. So you try to satisfy Lord Shiva. Narada also cited instances wherein demons like Ravana and Banasura were enriched with great opulence simply by satisfying Lord Shiva with prayers. Because the great sage Narada was aware of the nature of the demon Rikasura, he did not advise him to approach Vishnu or Lord Brahma. Persons such as Rikasura are situated in a material mode of ignorance, cannot stick to the worship of Vishnu. After receiving instruction from Narada, the demon Rikasura went to Kedaranatha. The pilgrimage site of Kedaranatha still exists near Kashmir. It is almost always covered by snow, but for part of the year, during the month of July, it is possible to see the deity, and devotees go there to offer their respects. Kedaranatha is for devotees of Lord Shiva. According to the Vedic principle, when something is offered to the deities to eat, it is offered in a fire. Therefore, a fire sacrifice is necessary in all sorts of ceremonies. It is specifically stated in the Shastras that gods are to be offered something to eat through the fire. The demon Rikasura therefore went to Kedaranatha and ignited a sacrificial fire to please Lord Shiva. After igniting the fire in the name of Shiva, he began to offer his own flesh, by cutting it from his body to please Lord Shiva. Here's an instance of worship in the mode of ignorance. In the Bhagavad Gita, different types of sacrifices are mentioned. Some sacrifices are in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, and some are in the mode of ignorance. There are different types of tapasya and worship because there are different kinds of people within this world. But the ultimate tapasya, Krishna consciousness, is the topmost yoga and the topmost sacrifice. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, the topmost yoga is to think always of Lord Krishna within the heart, and the topmost sacrifice is to perform the Sankirtan Yagya, Hari Bol. In the Bhagavad Gita it is stated that the worshippers of the demigods have lost their intelligence. As revealed later in this chapter, Rikasura wanted to satisfy Lord Shiva for a third-class materialistic objective, which was temporary and without real benefit. The asuras, or persons within the mode of ignorance, will accept such benedictions from the demigods. In complete contrast to this sacrifice is in the mode of ignorance, the Archana Vidhi process for worshipping Lord Vishnu or Krishna is very simple. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that he accepts from his devotee even a little fruit, a flower, or some water, which can be gathered by any person, rich or poor. Of course, those who are rich are not expected to offer only a little water, a little piece of fruit, or a little leaf to the Lord. A rich man should offer according to his position, but if the devotee happens to be a very poor man, the Lord will accept even the most meager offering. The worship of Lord Vishnu or Krishna is very simple, and it can be executed by anyone in this world. But worship in the mode of ignorance, as exhibited by Rikasura, is not only very difficult and painful, but it is also a useless waste of time. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita says that the worshippers of the demigods are bereft of intelligence. Their process of worship is very difficult, and at the same time, the result obtained is flickering and temporary. Although Rikasura continued to sacrifice for 6 days, he was unable to personally see Lord Shiva, which was his objective. He wanted to see him face to face and ask him for a benediction. Here is another contrast between demons and devotees. A devotee is confident that whatever he offers to the deity in full devotional service is accepted by the Lord, but a demon wants to see his worshipable deity face to face so that he can directly take the benediction. A devotee does not worship Vishnu or Lord Krishna for any benediction. Therefore, a devotee is called akama, free of desire, and non-devotee is called sarvakama, or desirous of everything. On the 7th day, the demon Rikasura decided that he should cut off his head and offer it to satisfy Lord Shiva. Thus he took a bath in a nearby lake, and without drying his body and hair, he prepared to cut off his head. According to Vedic system, an animal to be offered as a sacrifice has to be bathed first, and while the animal is wet, it is sacrificed. When the demon was thus preparing to cut off his head, Lord Shiva became very compassionate. This compassion is a symptom of the quality of goodness. Lord Shiva is called Trilinga, a mixture of the 3 material modes. Therefore, his manifestation of the nature of compassion is a sign of the quality of goodness. This compassion, however, is present in every living entity. The compassion of Lord Shiva was aroused not because the demon was offering his flesh into the sacrificial fire, but because he was about to commit suicide. This is natural compassion. Even if a common man sees someone preparing to commit suicide, he will try to save him. He does so automatically. There is no need to appeal to him. Therefore, when Lord Shiva appeared from the fire to check the demon from suicide, it was not done as a very great favor to him. Lord Shiva's touch saved the demon from committing suicide. His bodily injuries immediately healed, and his body became as it was before, when Lord Shiva told the demon, "My dear Vikasura, you do not need to cut off your head. You may ask from me any benediction you like, and I shall fulfill your desire. I do not know why you wanted to cut off your head to satisfy me. I become satisfied even by an offering of a little water. Actually, according to the Vedic process, the Shiva Linga in the temple, or the form of Lord Shiva in the temple, is worshipped simply by offering Ganges water, because it is said that Lord Shiva is greatly satisfied when Ganges water is poured upon his head. Generally, devotees offer Ganges water and leaves of the bilva tree, which are especially meant for offering to Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga. The fruit of this tree is also offered to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva assured Rikasura that he is satisfied by a very simple process of worship. Why then was he so eager to cut off his head? And why was he taking so much pain by cutting his body to pieces and putting it in the fire? There was no need of such severe penances. Anyway, out of compassion and sympathy, Lord Shiva prepared to give him any benediction he liked. When the demon was offered this facility by Lord Shiva, he asked for a fearful and abominable benediction. The demon was very sinful, and sinful persons do not know what sort of benediction should be asked from the deity. Therefore, he asked Lord Shiva to be blessed with such power that as soon as he would touch anyone's head, it would immediately crack, and the man would die. The demons are described in Bhagavad Gita as duskritis, miscreants. Kriti means very meritorious, but when du is added, it means abominable. Instead of surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the duskritis worship different demigods to derive abominable material benefits. Although the duskritis have brain power and merit, their merit and brain power is used for abominable activities. Sometimes, for example, materialistic scientists invent a lethal weapon. The scientific research for such an invention certainly requires a very good brain, but instead of inventing something beneficial to human society, they invent something to accelerate death, which is already assured to every man. They cannot show their meritorious power by inventing something which can save man from death. Instead, they invent weapons which accelerate the process of death. Now we're seeing that in Ukraine. The United States is sending, and Europe are sending to Ukraine, different machines and weapons to accelerate death. And the Russians, of course, are manufacturing different types of weapons to accelerate death. So now we know that they're both demons. So it's not that one is better than the other. They're both low-class demons. Similarly, Rikasura, instead of asking Lord Shiva for something beneficial to human society, asked for something very dangerous to human society. That's Zelensky. He keeps begging the United States, give me an atomic bomb, give me airplanes, give me this, give me that, all these different weapons to destroy people faster. And Putin is always advertising all the new weapons he has that can wipe out America with 4 bombs. So you can see it's nothing new. Lord Shiva is powerful enough to give any benediction, so the demon could have asked something beneficial for him. But for his personal interest, he asked that anyone whose head would be touched by his hand would at once die. Lord Shiva could understand the motive of the demon, and he was very, very sorry that he had assured him whatever benediction he liked, he could not withdraw his promise. But he was very sorry in his heart that he had to offer him a benediction so dangerous to human society. Devotees of the Personality of Godhead never ask any benediction from Lord Vishnu or Krishna, and even if they ask something from the Lord, it is not at all dangerous for human society. That is the difference between demons and devotees, or the worshippers of Lord Shiva and the worshippers of Lord Vishnu. While Sukadeva Goswami was narrating the history of Rikasura, he addressed Maharaj Parikshit as Bharata, referring to King Parikshit's birth in a family of devotees. Maharaj Parikshit was saved by Lord Krishna while in the mother's womb. Later he could have asked Lord Krishna to save him again from the curse of a Brahmana, but he did not do so. The demon, however, wanted to become immortal by killing everyone with the touch of his hand. Lord Shiva could understand this, but because he had promised, he gave him the benediction. The demon, however, being very sinful, immediately decided that he would use the benediction to kill Lord Shiva and take away Gauri, or Parvati, Shiva's wife, for his personal enjoyment. He immediately decided to place his hand on the head of Lord Shiva. Thus Lord Shiva was put into an awkward position because he was endangered by his own benediction to a demon. This is the instance of a materialistic devotees misusing the power derived from the demigods. Without further deliberation, the demon Vrikasura approached Lord Shiva to place his hand on Lord Shiva's head. Lord Shiva was so afraid of him that his body trembled, and he fled from the land to the sky and from the sky to other planets until he reached the limits of the universe above higher planetary systems. Lord Shiva fled from one place to another, but the demon Vrikasura continued to chase him. Wow, just see how powerful Vrikasura was. The predominating deities of the other planets, such as Brahma, Indra, and Chandra, could not find any way to save Lord Shiva from the impending danger. Wherever Lord Shiva went, they remained silent. At last, Lord Shiva approached Lord Vishnu, who is situated within this universe on the planet called Svetadipa. Svetadipa is the local Vaikuntha planet. Local Vaikuntha planet. Beyond the jurisdiction of the influence of the external energy. Lord Vishnu, in his all-pervasive feature, remains everywhere, but whenever he remains personally in the Vaikuntha atmosphere, but wherever he remains personally is the Vaikuntha atmosphere. In the Bhagavad Gita it is stated that the Lord remains within the heart of all living entities. As such, the Lord remains within the heart of many low-born living entities, but he does not mean he is low-born. Wherever he remains is transformed into Vaikuntha. So the planet within this universe, known as Svetadvipa, is also Vaikuntha Loka. It is said in the Shastras that residential quarters within the forest are the mode of goodness. Residential quarters in big cities, towns, and villages are in the mode of passion. And residential quarters in an atmosphere wherein indulgence in the four sinful activities of illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling predominates are in the mode of ignorance. Oh, that's Las Vegas. And many other places. But the residential quarters in a temple of Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, but residential quarters in a temple of Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, are in Vaikuntha. Oh, so we're in Vaikuntha right now. It doesn't matter where the temple is situated. The temple itself, wherever it may be, is Vaikuntha. Similarly, the Svetadvipa planet, although within the material jurisdiction, is Vaikuntha. Lord Shiva finally entered Svetadvipa, Vaikuntha. In Svetadvipa, there are great saintly persons who are completely freed from the envious nature of the material world and are beyond the jurisdiction of the four principles of material activity, namely religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Anyone who enters into that Vaikuntha planet never returns to this material world. Lord Narayana is celebrated as a lover of his devotees, and as soon as he understood that Lord Shiva was in great danger, he appeared as a brahmachari and personally approached Lord Shiva to receive him from a distant place. The Lord appeared as a perfect brahmachari, with a belt around his waist, a sacred thread, a deer skin, a brahmachari stick, and Rodra beads. Rodra beads are different than from Tulsi beads. Rodra beads are used by the devotees of Lord Shiva. Dressed as a brahmachari, Lord Narayana stood before Lord Shiva. The shining effulgence emanating from his body attracted not only Lord Shiva, but also the demon Vrikasura. Lord Narayana offered, it looks like Vrikasura is right behind Shiva, so he's very fortunate. Lord Narayana offered his respects and obeisances unto Vrikasura just to attract his sympathy and attention. Thus, stopping the demon, the Lord addressed him as follows: "My dear son of Sakuni, you appear very tired, as if coming from a very distant place. What is your purpose? Why have you come so far? I see that you are fatigued, so I request you to take a little rest. You should not unnecessarily tire your body. Everyone greatly values his body, because with this body only can one fulfill all desires of one's mind. We should not, therefore, unnecessarily give trouble to this body." You see, this is what all the demons are interested in the body. So if you say things like this, that you show you're interested in helping them have more peace and happiness in their body, meaning more sense gratification, they become very, very reconnaissant of your interest in them, and they respond in a favorable way. The brahmachari addressed Vrikasura as the son of Sakuni, just to convince him that he was known to his father, that the Vishnu is known to his father, Sakuni. Vrikasura then took the brahmachari to be someone known to his family, and therefore the brahmachari's sympathetic words appealed to him. Before the demon could argue that he had no time to take rest, the Lord informed him about the importance of the body, and the demon was convinced. Any man, especially a demon, takes his body to be very important. Thus, Vrikasura became convinced about the importance of his body. Then, just to pacify the demon, the brahmachari, so now the brahmachari is Krishna, right? Just to pacify the demon, the brahmachari told him, "My dear Lord, if you think that you can disclose the mission for which you have taken the trouble to come here, maybe I shall be able to help you so that your purpose will be easily served." Indirectly, the Lord informed him that because the Lord is the supreme Brahman, he would certainly be able to adjust the awkward situation created by Lord Shiva. The demon was greatly pacified by the sweet words of Lord Narayana in the form of a brahmachari, and at last he disclosed all that had happened in regard to the benediction offered by Lord Shiva. The Lord replied to the demon as follows: "I myself cannot believe that Lord Shiva has in truth given you such a benediction. As far as I know, Lord Shiva is not in a sane mental condition. When he had a quarrel with his father-in-law Daksha, he was cursed to become a pisacha, ghost. Thus he has become the leader of the ghosts and the hobgoblins. Therefore, I cannot put any faith in his words, but if you still have faith in the words of Lord Shiva, my dear king of the demons, then why don't you make an experiment by putting your hand on your own head? If the benediction proves false, then you can at once kill this liar, Lord Shiva, so that in the future he will not dare give out any false benedictions." In this way, by Lord Narayana's sweet words and by the expansion of a superior illusion, the demon became bewildered, and he actually forgot the power of Lord Shiva and his benediction. He was thus very easily persuaded to put his hand on his own head. As soon as the demon did that, his head cracked as if struck by thunder, and he immediately died. The demigods from heaven showered flowers on Lord Narayana, praising him with shouts of all glories and all thanksgiving, and they offered their obeisances to the Lord on the death of Rikasura. All the denizens in the higher planetary systems, namely the demigods, the Pitris, the Gandharvas, and the inhabitants of Janaloka, showered flowers on the personality of Godhead. Thus, Lord Vishnu, in the form of a brahmachari, released Lord Shiva from the impending danger and saved the whole situation. Lord Narayana then informed Lord Shiva that this demon Rikasura was killed as the result of his sinful activities. He was especially sinful and offensive because he wanted to experiment on his own master, Lord Shiva. Lord Narayana then told Lord Shiva, "My dear Lord, persons who commit a person who commits an offense to a great soul cannot continue to exist. He is vanquished by his own sinful activities, and this is certainly true of this demon who has committed such an offensive act against you. Thus, by the grace of the Supreme Personality Godhead Narayana, who is transcendental to all material qualities, Lord Shiva was saved from being killed by a demon. Anyone who hears this history with faith and devotion is certainly liberated from material entanglement as well as from the clutches of his enemies." Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 88th chapter of Krishna, the Deliverance of Lord Shiva. Now there's another question, is when this brahmachari appears, he's referred to as Lord Narayana. Why is that? Because whenever Krishna has to kill someone, he assumes the form of Lord Narayana with his two weapons, the gada and the chakra. So those two weapons are meant for the demons, and the other two opulences, that is the flower and the conch shell are meant for the devotees. So therefore we see how Lord Narayana, Krishna assumes the form of Lord Narayana when he has to kill someone or when he has to engage in some kind of a battle or whatever. But when he appears with his flute, he's only for transcendental pastimes of loving affection. Okay, so this is very instructive. Why? Because it says that Vidura was anxious to know from Uddhava that confidential knowledge known as Paramam Stitim, in which the Lord is known by his transcendental pastimes. So here we are learning about Krishna through his transcendental pastime in saving Lord Shiva. And we're learning a lot about Lord Shiva also. He is called Ashutosh, very easily pleased and also very easily angered. This formula of transcendental disciplic succession is taught by Lord Chaitanya also. Lord Chaitanya advises that one receive transcendental knowledge from anyone, whether a brahmana or a sudra, a householder or sannyasi, provided that person is factually conversant with the science of Krishna. A person who knows the science of Krishna is factually a bona fide spiritual master. Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'll stop right there and we'll continue tomorrow. Are there any questions?
So Maharaj, is this, I think one of my friend also asked similar questions.
Speak loudly, and I don't think you have your microphone
not
on.
Hello.
Okay.
I think.
Speak loudly.
So one of my friend also asked the question related to this, like Krishna's pastimes, and he asked me a question about, like, Krishna had in his pastimes in Vrindavan, he killed so many demons, but never has any weapon for. You used any weapon, then why he has to use the weapon when he killed Jarasan? He used his, chakra. Right, Sudarshan, sorry, Shishupal. Sorry, yeah, Shishupal. So
whenever he kills someone, he assumes the form of Lord Narayana.
Yeah. So in that context, I think I don't know, but he just asked this general question, and I don't have the perfect answer for that. But uh, for Shishupal, like Krishna used the, I mean, as his pastimes, he never used. He killed so many demons, right? He never used any weapon with their hands or anything. He killed all the demons.
How do you know that?
Uh, but yeah, all those means Vrindavan pastimes, right? Based on his.
No, he killed Sakatesura by kicking.
Yeah, but he didn't use external weapon like Sudarshan Chakra or something. Why he has to use the super weapon? That was his question. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it is like a kind of atomic bomb for killing just the killing this my small demon like this Shishupal.
Well,
So I
because
did.
no, because all right, I understand your question now. Well, what's wrong with see? What you're not understanding is, whenever Krishna appears, he appears in ekarasa. Ekarasa means even though he takes the body of a little baby, he has all the powers, as you know, as if he was completely mature. So that when you're a baby, you don't have the powers that you have now, right? But see, that's the difference between us and Krishna. Krishna never is diminished in any way, even if he appears as a little helpless baby. He has all the same powers as he does in his adult form. So that's another unique quality of Krishna. You see, so this is why people don't understand anything, because they don't listen to the Shastric evidence. So Krishna has ekarasa. He might come as a baby. He might come as a brahmachari. He might come in any form he wants. He still has all the powers with him. It's not that he's diminished because he has a smaller body. So that's what we should take. That should be the understanding that we have. You understand what ekarasa means? His rasa is always one. It's never diminished. So he can, whatever form he assumes, he has all his powers with him. And sometimes he appears with all his incarnations within him. Say, so whenever, like for example, Krishna went on the battlefield against Banasura, right? And whenever he's in that type of situation, all the incarnations are within him. Narayana and Shirodakshai Vishnu, all of those expansions of him are within him. Okay? At that point when he's engaging in battle. So, did he have any weapon when he was driving Arjuna's chariot? Yes. When Bhisma destroyed the chariot, he picked up a broken wheel and used it as a chakra. And he was ready to kill Bhisma. So, what about that? Right? He's in his original form, but instead of having the flute in his hand, he has the wheel, and then the wheel is spinning just like the chakra. You see, so Krishna has unlimited powers, and and no matter what form he assumes, all those powers are with him, and he can use them in any way he wants. Okay, Hari Bol. Where's Srila Prabhupada? You mean unite for goodness? Okay.
So, at a particular time, the
What time is the meeting? No, I'm whatever time. I mean, it's usually 6 to 7. Okay. So it's going to be a Zoom meeting? Zoom. Okay. So do we ask what's his name? Guranga Chandra. Do we ask him to call all the kids so they'll be present? Okay. Haribo. Go ahead.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakarti Sarma
Shri Guru Charana
Bando Mori Savadana Mate
Bando Muri Savadana Mate
Jaharat Prasade Bhai Eva Bhagoriya Jai
Janara Prasade Bhai Hema Vatoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jai Hoy Te
He Prasade Pure Sarvasa
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Te Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Toriya Kya
Arana Koriyo Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Esi Uttama Gati
Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Jai Prasad Pure Sarvasha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarvasa
Shri Guru Chakshurdan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Chakshudan Dila Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Chakshurdan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Chakshudan Dila Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Divya Jai Hriday Prakashito
Divyaninde Prakashita
Prema Bhakti Rati Avidya Vinasa Jata
Prema Bhakti Jahate Avidya Vinasa Jate
Vidikai Jaharat Rito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamadana Lokina Lokana Nivana Namo Vishnupadaya Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashadali Shatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Prabhupada, Paramahansa Pararajagachasta Terasatara Sri Srimad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikho Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagatpuri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the Assembled Devas, all glories to the Assembled Devas, all glories to the Assembled Devas, all glories to Shri Guru, Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutiri Srimati Bhutiri Srimati Namaste Saraswati Devi Sri 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 Paskatya Dasatarni. The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain pure devotion. Bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic karma emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord of